Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just making a little video. I've been making lots of candles and beeswax stuff, and a lot of people have been asking me how I do it. So it's just going to be a short video on how to make candles or dipped candles. Remember, I'm not a professional. This is just the way I've learned how to do it. It may not be the best way. It's certainly the best way I've found where I don't make too much mess, because beeswax can go a long way. You will also notice my other half is not here because she hates me doing it, because she's frightened I'm going to make a mess. She's been married to me too long to know that that's a great possibility in anything I do. So I'll turn this round and then we can have a look at how we do it. So here is my production line. You can see there's a T piece or a frame with it's got 6 nails in, really technical, and I hang off the wick and I do 6. The idea of that is that when you're dipping candles, if you dip them too quickly and too frequently, the wax won't stick because it's too soft, so it doesn't build up. So we have 6, so that gives it a chance to dry. Wicks themselves are not bits of cotton or wool. They're actually specially made, and they're square in section, and you can get different wick sizes for different thicknesses of candles. Beeswax candles need bigger wicks than paraffin candles. And if you have a too small a wick, it'll burn down the middle of a big candle and leave it hollow. Sometimes we do that for effect with the coloured outsides, but that's why it happens. So it's important in candle making to have the right wick for the right thickness of candle. And then you can see the next pan, you can see there's a tube in the middle of a pan of water, and in this tube will be full of wax, and that's where I'm going to dip. That tube will be full of wax, and that's where I'm going to dip my wicks. It's a very, very difficult and complex procedure. Basically, it's a scaffolding tube with a plate welded on the bottom, so it just becomes a container. And because when you dip your candles, you have to keep topping it up with wax as you go. Not so much when you've only got thin wicks, but as the candles get thicker, you do. And the final pan is another pan of water, on which sits in the middle is a pan full of molten wax. You have to do it this way because if you have the wax too hot, it darkens and you don't get very light colours. So by putting it in water, you can control the temperature better. At the moment, it's turned off because I don't want it to get any hotter, and I'll probably just have to keep every now and then turning up just to remelt it, just to keep it off solidified. So now I've got all the wicks done. I'm just going to fill this tube with wax. And then we'll start. And there we have it to the full. I'm just going to turn this on just to get that a little bit warmer because it looks a bit cold when I'm putting stuff in. So there's the wick, and all you do is dump it in here. Use the stick to soak it. And then I just take that out straighten it with a piece of stick to get some sort of straightness out of it. And that's your first start. And you do all of them exactly the same. Like I said, it's not really rocket science. You just stretch that across there to straighten it. Sometimes straightens and sometimes it doesn't, as that one didn't. And we do all 6. And when you do this, you try to soak this. These will, as they harden, will actually be easier to straighten. And there's something quite relaxing about doing this, because when you get into the rhythm, you just do candle making and you forget about everything else. So you can just spend an hour or so making some candles and forget about the world. So there we have the first 6 done. And now they're actually waxed. You can actually straighten them slightly, but they still probably won't stay straight. So now we start dipping them. Now that's straight, so we just slide it in until it gets to the bottom, slide it out. Make sure it doesn't drip, put it on the nail. Very technical. And we do this again. Slide it to the top. You can actually feel it touch the bottom. And we go on doing this for about 4 dips. I find that you can only do so many dips before the wax on the thread on the candle gets so warm that when you dip them, it doesn't put an extra layer on because it's too warm. It just runs off. And of course, this is where you get the expression of waxing moon. A waxing moon is when the moon's getting bigger to a full moon. And it means that the wax is getting bigger, and just like waxing here, the moon's getting bigger, the candles are getting bigger. Of course, it doesn't really look like it's getting bigger for quite a while, but it is. So we're coming up to 3 dips. And then the 4th. The reason I've got 6 candles, 6 threads, is that it gives enough time for them to cool when I get all 6. If I only had 1 or 2, I'd have to spend a long time just waiting. And probably you could make one with 12. Commercially, when they make candles, they have big square frames with perhaps 100, 200 threads on them, and there's a big vat underneath, and They just drop the whole lot in, all the threads, and bring it back out, and that's how they do it. But of course I'm not commercial, I'm just making some wax candles from the wax I get from my bees. So now, as it's cooling, I try and just straighten them like that. And gently run my fingers down there and just try and straighten them. And you can get some of the kinks out, but not all. Not yet anyway. But you can see them slowly getting straighter. Now I feel how cool they are, and they're quite cool, so I can carry on dipping. And this continues until we get a little bit bigger. So we'll just stop the video and then we'll start it again as the candles get bigger. So you join us again. Now they don't look any different, but in comparison you can see they've grown quite a bit. You can also see that they're still slightly bent and still want to go where they originally were, so we have to keep pulling down and straightening. And at the bottom of them now you can see a drip forming. So if you just pinch that off, pop it in the wax, that will be fine. Don't try and get too technical. Don't need to measure it, don't need to cut it off, just your fingertip, like that. And just straighten them out again. That's the thing, is take your time, keep straightening them gently, because they are fragile. Dip in. What we do need to do now is top this up. So we'll just come in here, top it up. More wax. We don't want it to the top, because as we drop that in, the level will rise. If it's too much, it will come over the top, and that's much harder to do, to sort out when the candles are much bigger. Well, I've just done that one, haven't we? Move on to the next one. Just dip all the way in, let it drip. And earlier on, the wax was just getting a bit too hot, so it wasn't sticking on the candle as well. So I've let the wax cool down a little bit in the dipping tube, and it's now sticking better. What happens is that it melts the wax underneath and doesn't stick, so you dip, and in actual fact sometimes the candle gets slimmer. And the usual sign I find is that at the bottom of the candle starts getting thin, because as the wax runs down it heats up, so the last bit at the bottom is the warmest and the least thick, when it should be the other way around. But again, it's not rocket science. You don't need a thermometer. As soon as the wax is melted, you need to start taking off the heat. And then we start again on this end. And you can see now they're starting to build up much quicker. And that's still at a kink. I'll have to straighten it out at the end of this line of just to try and keep going it and get it straight. Likewise, you don't want to dip it in and hold it in, because the wax underneath gets warm and more wax runs off than actually stays on. These was enough just to coat it, a thin coat, perhaps 0.5 millimetre. And then we'll do another one. This one's fairly straight. This one isn't, so we're going to just pull it down. Pull that down, pull that down, pull that down. That one still doesn't want to. That still keeps going out, but we'll carry on. Eventually they will straighten out. If you wanted to run them perfect, you would get 2 sheets of glass and run the candle between the two, like that, and that would make them extremely straight. If you were going to do for showing at a honey show, and they had a class for beeswax candles, that's what you would expect it to do. But I quite like the rustic look, not so rustic that they're bent all over the place, but just enough so they're straight and usable, which these will be. We get to the end. So there's no rushing, just take your time. Right, I'll just turn this off and then when it gets a little bit bigger, we'll show you what's happening. I've brought the camera around so we can see into where the warming vat is, and as you can see, the wax is just cooling down enough that it's forming a skin, so we just need to turn it on again, otherwise it will set and you can't dip candles into a solid wax, which is an obvious thing to say. So now we turn it over to here, and if we just get a little bit closer, you'll see that's the level. You can just about see the level where my finger is, and you'll see it rise as I put the candle in. See the wax where it rises? So we need to get that level as high as possible without going over the top when we dip. So you can see we should be putting more wax in there, but we can't fill it to the top, or when we dip a candle it'll spurge out the side. So let's just take a bit of this molten wax. And then we'll hopefully not filled it too far. You watch, it gets right to the top, so that's fine. If we don't get it right to the top in 2 or 3 centimetres won't actually be in the wax for dipping, so we'll end up with shorter candles. We just go down the line. It's not much difference in technique. Go down the line, dip, hang, a couple of dips, then straighten, because they still bend like this. Like I said, it's very relaxing. You just do this, you just concentrate on this. If you stop concentrating, you forget to turn the wax off and it gets too hot or gets too cold. The candles aren't straight. All you need to do is concentrate on this. So we'll go back to looking So you can see how it's going. We continue doing this for 10 minutes and we should be there. So it's just a matter of dipping, topping up, straightening, just taking your time. I'll turn the camera on when we get nearly to the end. Right, we're now nearly there. Just going to top up that again. Every round of dips I have to top this up now. Hopefully just a little bit, otherwise it will overflow. And then dip the candle in. This is just getting to the top, perfect. I think a couple more dips for every candle will probably be enough. Then it'll be finished. Leave them to cool because they're too malleable and can be bent until they get cold. We'll just do one more dip after this. Then we'll call it a day. Just got to top this up. As you can see, there's not a lot of technicality, a lot of patience. Just take your time. Try and be methodical so that you don't make a complete mess of everything. And it's a job you can't rush because the candle's got to be cool enough between the dips or it won't work. So you can't rush it. I suppose you could do another one of these and do 12 and that will probably be okay. It did occur to me I could do that, but you know, I just enjoy doing 6. So I'll just go and get one of my other candles for comparison size. Maybe one more dip. Just the one more. If you get fingerprints or anything in them accidentally, if you just re-dip it, it'll move the fingerprints out. It's quite forgiving. As you can see, I can straighten them before earlier. I could straighten these now, but once the wax goes hard, you can't straighten them. But when you get to this heavy, the actual weight itself starts making them straight anyway. And the final dip for this one. So there you have it. 6 dip candles, about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes. Wasn't rushing it. And then I've got to let them dry, and then I'll start and cool down, and I'll do another lot. So I encourage anybody else to have a go at making their own dip candles. You just need to have some old pans that you know you're not going to need again. I use the preserving pan at the far end for the water, but everything else is just for wax making, because it can get into everything if you're not careful. So I'll leave it at that, and you can see the candles. In all their glory, and how easy it is to do. So I'll sign out for now until I figure out something else to do for the next video. So may your God go with you. Good night.